the beginning?
Oh, absolutely. And it really surprised me because my parents had done the estate planning. So we had the durable power of attorney in place. They had medical directives. They did what the financial and insurance advisor had recommended. But as they started to, their health started to fail and I needed to step in and help, there's a lot of complications that come with it. Financial institutions don't always readily accept your durable power of attorney. I had one tell me that Fidelity actually said it was more than 2 years old, so they wouldn't accept my parents' durable power of attorney because it was more than 2 years old, which is totally ridiculous. But they're really protecting, I guess, their legal interests. I'm still working with some issues with Wells Fargo, who aren't recognizing my parents' power of attorney, so I can help pay some of their bills. So it's more interesting that the modern world and all these different, bank accounts we have and phone accounts, email, there's so much more stuff in our life. And because my parents didn't have all this stuff documented, I walked into having to manage their household. Did they have a warranty on the refrigerator? Did I need to call the AC repairman to come do service, and were they paying for a service plan? To going to medical appointments, and I needed to be able to cite their medical history. When did they, have a certain medical issue? Even with electronic medical records, most doctors don't really look at those records. They look at the patient and want the patient to recite back to them what's going on and why are you here. So there were a lot of things, not just the bill pay. There was just a lot more stuff that I really needed to understand and be able to manage for my parents. And while I'm doing this, I'm raising 2 kids. So I'm trying to manage my own household. And so I just started documenting all the things in my parents' life. And when I had a sibling come in to give me a break from caregiving, because it was 20 to 30 hours a week for me just to help manage, get them to doctor's appointments, manage their personal accounts and bill pay, that my siblings would come in and I needed to be able to turn it over to them and just say, I need a break. Here's everything you need to know to be able to help mom and dad. And so that's really how I started to create the system, was basically out of personal necessity and just the difficulties I faced with just living every day-to-day life and managing our lives.
A lot of us take it for granted that it's just something we'll do when we get there. We don't plan. Kind of a lot of us live on that kind of lifestyle daily. I know that for me, when when my parents passed, they had already bought their plot at the cemetery and kind of had some things in order, but that was just part of it. And when you lose a parent, there's a grieving process, and when you have to start taking care of your parents, there's another process. And so with that overwhelm, whether you're moving a family member, a parent into your home, there's a transition there, or, maybe you're going back and forth to their home, or maybe even putting them into a facility where they can kind of enjoy other people their ages. There's still a lot of process in place. Now, is there something, I know you've created this, but have you ever seen anything else like what you've created with MemoryBanc, where there's I believe it's more like a workbook for people to, go through and make sure that they have like the checklist marked off so that they can enjoy the time that they're spending with their parent instead of stressing out over it?
Right. And, I hadn't seen anything. What I have seen, and unfortunately when my dad passed away and I got his the information that he had filled out with his financial advisor, it was really just a list of accounts. So a lot of people think, and there's some smaller worksheets that you might get from your financial advisor, that is a list of accounts and maybe their account numbers. But as we kind of talked about, when I started having issues and the durable power of attorney wasn't recognized, one of the ways I got around it was my dad sat down with me and we did a lot of online access. So there's varied tools out there. So I have seen some workbooks or little notepads that take your online accounts, but there was nothing that really had all of your accounts, created a way for you to track all of your usernames and passcodes to your accounts. Your utilities now come with usernames and passcodes. your phone account has a username, passcodes, and even a security question. So I haven't seen anything as comprehensive as my book, and I think one of the benefits of having to walk this journey was I learned every place that there was information that I didn't have that I needed. So I understood the breadth and depth that you had to go to really understand and manage all the information that's in our lives.
Yeah, there's nothing like first-hand information that'll make you pay attention. It's okay. I want to go back a little bit and tell people where you're calling in from, where you're from originally. I usually do this in the beginning, but it was on my mind because there's so many people that I hear stand up and do an elevator pitch in a business network setting about how the surprise comes when they have to take care of their parents and they weren't prepared. And so I think that being able to, deal with the stress of maybe an illness that they're developing or going to the doctors or just the fact that they might be losing their memory or something, all the things that add up can really play a big part on your immediate family life that wasn't a part of it before. So I just wanted to make sure to get that out, and we'll go back to it. But tell people where you're calling in from and, a little bit about your background, okay? Since you've taken over this type of role and teaching others, talk about how that's been going for you as well.
Okay. So I am an Army brat, moved around the world for the first half of my life, and ended up landing I'm in McLean, Virginia now. I've had a few forays out to different cities and states for a while, but have mostly had my adult career based with technology companies in the Northern Virginia area. And as I was raising kids and my parents were having trouble, that's when I really started. I was struggling, as you talked a little bit about, and I worked with a coach that helped me understand, what was really happening in my life and how my faith played a role in it. And I really started to listen and watch to the things going on around me and was recognizing what were the blessings and what have I learned. And so as I was walking this journey, and I kept having people ask me, can I get a copy of that book you've been using? Most people knew what was going on in my life. I ended up doing a business plan competition, like, is this really a business? And I won the award from AARP Foundation for an older adult-focused innovation. So I knew that I had really struck a chord and found something that was on people's minds, but as Americans, we really don't talk about death, or when we talk about aging, we talk about, I'm going to go golfing or I'm going to go sailing. We don't actually talk about what we're going to do with our time as we're living longer. And so I really just started listening to what was happening in my life and watching, and it's been quite a development for the business as we've launched and rolled out, and I've been looking at the business plan every year, as you recommend other entrepreneurs do, and trying to understand, who do I serve and who do I help, and how can I help other families? And so that's been a really big role for me. I launched a blog dealing with dementia as I started because both of my parents ended up having different forms of dementia. How do you deal with a parent, especially early on, that can't remember things, you don't really know what the diagnosis is, and how do you manage through that process? But I've been really surprised because most of my customers have ended up being couples that are between 40 and 60, and they're just like, we divide and conquer everything. So I have no idea of, if something happened to my husband or he's traveling, I would have no idea how to get into the bill pay account. My son actually broke his phone 2 weeks ago when I had to log in and get him a new phone while my husband was out of town, and I needed to come up with his favorite movie. Thankfully, I had written down, I had made him go through some security questions so I could answer that. But there's so many things in our life that you really divide and conquer with a spouse, and it's been eye-opening to me to just kind of walking this journey and realizing, how can I help other families? How can I make them realize that we really need to talk about and plan our lives like we talk about and plan a business? What do you want to do in 10 years? How do you want to spend your retirement time? Is retirement a word that you use? And what does that mean to you? And so my whole goal has been really to get people talking about this and thinking about what do I want to do with the rest of my life, and how do I want to spend my time, because we're living a lot longer. So that has really been, quite a journey for me in the past few years.
So as I'm listening, I'm thinking, you mentioned financial planners and insurance people and stuff like that. This book should be something, that would be a good partnership for you to meet people that could use your book and to help them deliver a message in a different direction than the normal, story about death or health needed insurance. So have you partnered with any of those kind of industries?
I have. I actually have estate planners and financial planners and even realtors that give out my book as a gift and do events to bring people in to learn a topic. And a lot of it is, I try to teach a topic and have them view this as more of a lighthearted. When you start talking to people about estate planning, people get very fearful. They think it immediately means some kind of death topic. But it's really more of a conversation about, are you ready for the rest of your life? So they do provide my products to clients. They have me come in and talk to their clients. I do extensive writing, so they incorporate my writing into their newsletters, and I help them do different marketing programs on how to engage with their clients and open up their eyes to different ways to think about how they want to live the rest of their life.
As I'm looking at your website, MemoryBanc, BANC.com, okay, there's a lot of information on here, and one of the things that I'm wondering is, you do workshops and different things. A lot of us adults today, we don't really pay attention to a lot of the things needed, like having conversation. And this type of conversation could be so helpful with people. Have you thought about doing couples workshops just to have this type of conversation, type of atmosphere, so people learn more about the different things? I'm in my late 50s, so I know that, when I grew up, my father took care of the checkbook, and my mother just did what she did, and, it's a different world today. But a lot of people still have, I could tell you that I have accounts, but my wife handles all that. Now, there is a spot where I can go find out all the information, but a lot of people don't have that clue, and it really will help, I think it would really help couples have better communication skills if they sat down and shared this information, so that, sometimes do you think that what holds them back from communicating is they're not sure if it's any of their business?
It is, and it really is kind of an age. I see that with a lot of older couples where, typically the husband wrote all the checks in some cases and managed all the finances. And I've had more older clients talk about that. But in the younger clients, many have husband and wife maintain separate banking accounts. One pays the mortgage, the other one pays the household bills. There really is this divide and conquer mentality. Many of us marry later in our lives. And it's interesting, it's the first workshop I did actually with couples was because the pastor of my church came to me and said, hey, I want to do this Lenten series on Are You Ready for the Rest of Your Life? And so I was the kickoff speaker, and we did a series. So I spoke about why it's important. We had a financial planner come in. We had an estate lawyer talk. And we even had a gentleman come in and talk about pre-planning your funeral and what that meant and why it was important, and why it's easier to do it when you're not in the midst of a crisis. It's so easy to talk about it now when you really don't think about it. And so that course has actually been, I'm doing it at our community center. I have retirement communities inviting me in. So, yes, it is. It's a really great topic for couples to do. And so I have been leading that, and it's been really interesting. There's just, everyone's different, and there's been so many different things that have come out of it. Some don't want to share it. Some are afraid to ask because they think it's overstepping their bounds. But I will tell you the one thing I have learned, the worst time to do it is when a kid goes to a parent and says, where's all your estate planning? So that's the worst way to open up the conversation. The best way is to go and say, hey, I'm going through the process of estate planning, and I'm looking about what I would do for retirement. how did you guys make those choices? So starting a conversation about it